Hey there! Ever wondered how North Korea became the enigmatic fortress it is today? It's a country shrouded in secrecy, with a reputation for being one of the most isolated and mysterious places on Earth. But behind the headlines and the myths, there's a fascinating story about how it all began. Let's hop into our time machine and travel back to the mid-20th century, a period of global upheaval and dramatic change. The world was just emerging from the devastation of World War II, and the fate of entire nations was being decided by the world's superpowers. Picture this: World War II ends, and the Korean peninsula, which had been under Japanese rule for decades, is suddenly split in two at the 38th parallel. The north is occupied by Soviet forces, while the south falls under American influence. This division wasn't just a line on a map, it was the beginning of a new era for Korea. Now, here's where things get really interesting. The people of Korea, exhausted by years of colonial rule and war, found themselves caught between two competing ideologies: communism in the north and capitalism in the south. The Soviet Union, led by Joseph Stalin, swoops in to occupy the northern half. But this wasn't just a military occupation, it was a calculated move in the global chess game between the Soviets and the Americans. They didn't just sit there idly, oh no. The Soviets quickly set about transforming the north into a model socialist state, using every tool at their disposal. The Soviets were on a mission to mold North Korea into a loyal communist ally. They sent in political advisors, military experts, and even teachers to help shape the new government and society. They handpicked a young guerrilla fighter, Kim Il-sung, to lead this new nation. Ever heard of him? He was a charismatic leader who had fought against the Japanese, and the Soviets saw him as the perfect figurehead for their new project. Yeah, he's the grandfather of the current leader, Kim Jong-un. The Kim dynasty, which still rules North Korea today, was born out of this Soviet-backed experiment. Under Soviet guidance, Kim Il-sung built a regime that mirrored Soviet ideals. The government was highly centralized, with power concentrated in the hands of the ruling party and its leader. Land reforms, state-run industries, and a centralized government were all part of the package. The aim? To reshape society from the ground up, eliminating old hierarchies and creating a new socialist order. Peasants were given land, private businesses were nationalized, and the state took control of nearly every aspect of daily life. The ultimate goal was to create a buffer against the capitalist South and, of course, the United States. North Korea became a frontline state in the Cold War, a bulwark against Western influence in East Asia. But it didn't stop there. The Soviets poured resources into the north, providing military equipment, training, and economic aid. North Korean soldiers learned Soviet tactics, and the country's military was built in the image of the Red Army. The Soviets didn't just lend their political ideology, they brought in advisors, military support, and even cultural influences. Soviet engineers helped rebuild cities, and Soviet artists and musicians introduced new styles and ideas. Russian language and culture seeped into North Korean society. Russian was taught in schools, and Soviet literature and films became popular among the elite. Even today, traces of Russian influence can be found in North Korean art and education. It was like an extensive makeover, Soviet style. Pyongyang, the capital, was rebuilt with grand boulevards and imposing government buildings, all inspired by Soviet architecture. So, why is this important? Because the Soviet blueprint laid the foundation for everything that followed in North Korea. The country's political system, its economy, even its culture, all were shaped by this early period of Soviet involvement. Understanding the Soviet roots gives us insights into why North Korea operates the way it does today. The secretive government, the focus on military strength, the cult of personality around its leaders, all of these have their origins in the Soviet era. It's like looking at the blueprints of a mysterious building. If you know where to look, you can see the original plans beneath the surface, even if the exterior has changed over time. You see the foundation, the structure, the hidden passages that explain how power is maintained and why the country remains so closed off from the rest of the world. It helps decode the enigma that North Korea has become. The rituals, the parades, the unwavering loyalty to the Kim family, all of it makes more sense when you understand the Soviet playbook behind it. And here's the kicker. Without the Soviet influence, North Korea as we know it might not exist. The country's identity, its leadership, and its place in the world were all shaped by decisions made in Moscow decades ago. It's a fascinating reminder of how global politics shape nations in ways we often overlook. The story of North Korea is also the story of the Cold War, of superpowers vying for influence and of ordinary people caught in the crossfire. So next time you hear about North Korea in the news, remember the Soviet shadow that still looms large over this isolated nation. The echoes of that era are still felt in every aspect of North Korean life, from its politics to its architecture. Thanks for tuning in, and keep those questions coming. There's always more to uncover when you dig into the past. History is full of secrets waiting to be uncovered. Sometimes, the answers to today's mysteries are hidden in the events of yesterday. Catch you in the next one. Until then, keep exploring, keep questioning, and never stop being curious about the world around you.